Officer, I'm a state attorney general.
This car was reported stolen. I don't care if you're the president.
The rookie's hand was already on his holster before Kevin Bryant even rolled down the window. Step out of the vehicle. This car was reported stolen. Bryant didn't argue. He just looked at the officer, calm, measured, and said, "Look at my chest. Read what it says." The badge, the seal, the words State Attorney General. "I don't care what it says. License, now." That was the moment. Right there on the shoulder of Route 9 in broad daylight was a man in a tailored suit holding up credentials and a cop who wouldn't blink. "You're pulling over a state attorney general. I don't care if you're the president. Get out. Hands where I can see them." So Bryant did something the rookie didn't expect. He got quiet, and then he said, almost gently, "That camera on your chest just recorded everything you said to a black man in a suit who showed you his badge, and you still didn't stop. I don't care what your name is. You're not above the law." Bryant looked at him one last time. "No, but you just put yourself below it." What this rookie didn't know, as he stood on the shoulder of Route 9 in broad daylight, hand resting on his holster, barking orders at a man in a tailored suit, was that Kevin Bryant had personally prosecuted 31 corrupt law enforcement officers in the last 4 years. He had sent 19 of them to federal prison. In exactly 11 minutes, he would have one more name for that list. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Officer Dale Pruitt had been on the force for exactly 14 months. 14 months, not 14 years, not even 14 months of a clean record. Dale Pruitt graduated from Crestfield Police Academy in the bottom third of his class. His firearms certification took 3 attempts. His supervisor's evaluation from month 6 contained a single highlighted phrase: "Demonstrates difficulty de-escalating tense encounters." That report was filed, reviewed, and then quietly ignored. By the time he pulled onto Route 9 that Tuesday afternoon, Pruitt already had 4 documented complaints in his personnel file. 2 were for aggressive stops of black male motorists. 1 was for threatening language during a domestic call. The 4th, filed just 6 weeks earlier, described him detaining a black teenager outside a convenience store for 11 minutes without cause. That complaint was still marked pending review. His supervisors knew. His precinct captain knew. Nobody did anything. Pruitt had developed a habit, colleagues had noticed it, of running plates in predominantly black neighborhoods during his patrol hours. He would later claim it was routine. The data in his patrol logs told a different story. 81% of his discretionary stops in 14 months involved black drivers. That Tuesday, he spotted a dark blue Audi sedan doing exactly the speed limit on Route 9. The driver was black, well-dressed, unhurried. To Dale Pruitt, something about that combination made him uncomfortable. He hit the lights. What he expected was compliance, maybe nerves, possibly an easy citation. What he was not prepared for, what nothing in 14 months on the force had prepared him for, was Kevin Bryant. Kevin Bryant did not come from privilege. He came from persistence. He grew up in East Crestfield, the same city whose streets Pruitt now patrolled, in a 2-bedroom apartment with his mother, a hospital aide who worked double shifts, and his younger sister. He watched his neighborhood get over-policed and under-protected simultaneously. He decided at 16 that the most powerful place a black man from East Crestfield could stand was inside a courtroom. He was right. Bryant graduated top of his class from Howard University School of Law. He joined the state prosecutor's office at 27, where he built a reputation for meticulous, unbeatable case preparation. In 8 years as a prosecutor, he secured 47 felony convictions. He led the task force that dismantled the Crestfield narcotics distribution network, a 2-year investigation involving 4 agencies and 23 coordinated arrests. At 38, he became the youngest person ever appointed state attorney general in the state's history. In that role, he had personally overseen 31 investigations into law enforcement misconduct. 19 officers were federally convicted under his office's prosecutions. His unit had recovered $14.2 million in civil settlements for victims of police abuse. He had testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee twice. He had 3 commendations from the Department of Justice framed on his office wall. He coached youth basketball on Saturdays in East Crestfield, the same courts he grew up playing on. On the afternoon of Tuesday, October 14th, Kevin Bryant was driving home from a speaking engagement at Crestfield State University, still in his suit, still doing exactly the speed limit. Dale Pruitt had just pulled over the most dangerous man in the state to cross illegally. Dangerous because he knew every single law Pruitt was about to break. It was 3:47 p.m. when Pruitt's lights hit the Audi. Kevin Bryant checked his mirror, signaled correctly, and pulled smoothly onto the shoulder. He placed both hands visible on the steering wheel before Pruitt had even opened his cruiser door. He had done this before. Every black man in America has done this before. Pruitt approached the driver's side window with his hand already resting on his belt. License and registration. No greeting. No explanation for the stop. Bryant remained calm, measured. He produced both documents in one slow, deliberate motion and handed them through the window. Officer, may I ask the reason for the stop? Pruitt ignored the question entirely. He studied the license for an unusually long time. Then, this was Pruitt's first massive mistake. He said, "Step out of the vehicle, sir." "Am I being detained?" Bryant asked. Voice level, professional. "Step out, now." Bryant stepped out slowly, hands visible. He was still in his suit. His attorney general credentials were clipped to his breast pocket, plainly visible. Pruitt looked directly at them. This was Pruitt's second massive mistake. He saw the credentials and kept going anyway. "I need you to move to the rear of the vehicle." "Officer, I am Kevin Bryant, State Attorney General. I need you to read what is on that credential card." Anybody can get a card printed. Pruitt then reached for Bryant's arm. That was Pruitt's third massive mistake, and the one that sealed everything that followed. Because what Pruitt could not see from where he was standing was what Bryant could see clearly from where he stood: the body camera on Pruitt's chest. It was recording every single second. Kevin Bryant was not the only one watching. 30 seconds into the stop, a white Honda Civic had slowed on the shoulder 20 yards back. The driver, a 34-year-old nurse named Diane Holloway, heading home from her shift at Crestfield General, had seen the lights, seen the suited black man standing with his hands visible, and felt something she later described in her statement as immediately wrong. She pulled over. Her phone came out. She began recording. That was camera 1. A delivery driver for a regional logistics company had been parked in the pull-off area 40 yards ahead of the stop, completing his digital manifest. When he heard Pruitt's voice escalate, he looked up. His dashcam, a wide-angle model with continuous recording, had captured the entire stop from the front, including the moment Pruitt reached for Bryant's arm. The timestamp on the dashcam footage would later become a critical piece of evidence. That was camera 2. Pruitt's own body camera, department issued, activated automatically at the moment he hit his cruiser lights, had been recording from the beginning. It captured everything: Bryant's visible credentials, the unhurried, cooperative demeanor, Pruitt's hand on Bryant's arm, every word, every second, in high definition. That was camera 3. And then, at the 4-minute mark of the stop, a second patrol unit arrived. Officer Renee Castillo, a 7-year veteran responding to Pruitt's request for backup, pulled up behind the cruiser. She stepped out. She assessed the scene in approximately 4 seconds. She later told investigators she knew immediately that something was wrong. She did not intervene in that moment, a decision she would publicly describe as the biggest regret of her career. But she was there. She saw everything, and she would testify to every detail. 4 recording sources, 3 independent witnesses, 11 minutes of uninterrupted footage. Dale Pruitt had committed every one of his mistakes in what amounted to the most documented 11 minutes of his 14-month career. There would be no version of events he could construct that the evidence would not immediately dismantle. No report he could file that the footage would not contradict. No story he could tell that 4 cameras had not already told better. The truth was not going anywhere. 4 cameras, 14 months on the force, 31 law enforcement officers already prosecuted by the man he just put his hands on. Let me ask you something. At what point during those 11 minutes do you think Dale Pruitt realized what he had done? Was it when Kevin Bryant stated his title clearly and Pruitt kept going anyway? Was it when he reached for Bryant's arm? Or was it later, when he got back to his cruiser, ran the name, and watched the color drain from everything he thought his career was going to be? Type camera in the comments if you believe Pruitt knew exactly who Kevin Bryant was the moment he saw those credentials and targeted him anyway. And while you're down there, have you or someone you know ever been stopped, questioned, or dismissed by someone in authority who simply refused to believe you were who you said you were? The comments are a safe space. Share your experience. You may be surprised how many people are reading and nodding along. Because this story is not just about one rookie on one Tuesday afternoon on Route 9. This happens every day. To people with credentials, to people without credentials, to people in suits, to people in hoodies. The credential should not even be the point. But in 11 minutes, it was about to become the most important object in Dale Pruitt's entire career. Stay with us. Diane Holloway posted her footage at 6:23 p.m. that evening. She added no caption, no commentary, no hashtags. Just 11 minutes and 4 seconds of unedited video and a single sentence. This happened today on Route 9. The man being harassed is our state attorney general. By 9 p.m., it had 400,000 views. By midnight, it had crossed 2.1 million. By Tuesday morning, less than 18 hours after Pruitt hit his lights on Route 9, the video had been viewed 6.8 million times. It was the #1 trending clip across 3 platforms simultaneously. The story broke on national news at 7 a.m. By 8 a.m., every major outlet had a correspondent outside Crestfield Police Department headquarters. CNN ran the footage in full during their morning broadcast. The Associated Press filed their report at 8:47 a.m. By noon, the story had been picked up in the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. The Crestfield Police Department's public affairs line received 1,400 calls before 10 a.m. Their official social media accounts were flooded within minutes of the story breaking. Their statement, a 4-sentence acknowledgement promising an internal review, was ratioed into irrelevance within the hour. Former colleagues of Bryant's began appearing on television. Legal analysts broke down every frame of the footage. Retired law enforcement officers went on record calling Pruitt's conduct indefensible. What happened on Route 9 at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon was no longer a local matter. It was now a national conversation. And at the center of that conversation was Dale Pruitt's body camera footage, playing on a loop on every screen for millions of people who had already made up their minds. The public had seen everything. Now they wanted consequences. The consequences came fast, and they came in order. By Wednesday morning, 18 hours after the footage went viral, Dale Pruitt was placed on immediate administrative leave. His weapon and badge were surrendered before noon. The Crestfield Police Department issued a second statement. This one was longer. It contained the word unacceptable 4 times. It was not enough. 72 hours after the stop, Pruitt was formally terminated. The department's Internal Affairs Division completed their review in a time frame that investigators later noted was unusually accelerated, a detail that suggested the footage had left absolutely no room for interpretation. 2 weeks later, the State Bureau of Investigation opened a formal civil rights inquiry. Federal involvement followed shortly after. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division announced they were monitoring the case closely, language that, in legal circles, means they were already building a file. 6 weeks after the stop, a federal grand jury was convened. 4 months later, Dale Pruitt was indicted on 2 federal counts: deprivation of rights under color of law and filing a false incident report. The report Pruitt had submitted the evening of the stop had described Bryant as uncooperative and aggressive. 4 cameras had recorded the opposite. At sentencing, Pruitt received 3 years in federal prison. His law enforcement certification was permanently revoked in every state. His pension, 14 months accumulated, was forfeit. The city of Crestfield settled a civil suit brought on Bryant's behalf for $4.2 million. The settlement was reached without trial. Officer Renee Castillo, who witnessed the stop and did not intervene, received a formal reprimand and mandatory retraining. She later resigned. Dale Pruitt's 14-month career ended in 11 minutes on a Tuesday afternoon. The math was not complicated, but let's be clear about something. Dale Pruitt did not appear out of nowhere. He was built by a system that allowed him to exist. This was not one bad rookie making one bad decision on one Tuesday afternoon. This was the product of every checkpoint that failed before Route 9, the academy that graduated him in the bottom third, the supervisor who flagged his de-escalation problem and filed the report anyway, the precinct captain who reviewed 4 complaints in 14 months and did nothing, the internal affairs process that left a complaint from a Black teenager marked pending review for 6 weeks without resolution. Every single one of those failures had a human being behind it. Every single one of those human beings made a choice. Pruitt's termination was necessary. His prosecution was necessary. But termination and prosecution alone do not fix the pipeline that produced him. In the aftermath of the Route 9 case, the Crestfield Police Department was placed under a federal consent decree, a court-enforced reform agreement requiring independent oversight of all discretionary stops, mandatory bias training, and quarterly public reporting of stop demographics. It was the first consent decree in the department's 67-year history. The state legislature introduced the Bryant Accountability Act, named directly for the incident, mandating automatic external review for any complaint involving racially disproportionate stop patterns. It passed with bipartisan support. Patrol log data from Crestfield was made permanently public record. These were not small reforms. They were structural. They were the direct result of 11 minutes on Route 9 being captured on 4 cameras and seen by millions of people who refused to look away. One incident, one body camera, one system forced to confront itself. That is how change gets made. Kevin Bryant gave one public statement following the settlement. 1. He did not hold a press conference. He did not appear on television. He released a single written statement through his office, and then he went back to work. The statement read, in part, that he was not seeking sympathy. He was seeking structural change, that the outcome of his case was not a victory, because a victory would mean it never happened, that the $4.2 million settlement was not his money to keep. He donated every dollar, every single dollar, to the East Crestfield Community Legal Defense Fund, providing free legal representation to residents facing misconduct from law enforcement. The same neighborhood he grew up in, the same streets that shaped him. He still coaches youth basketball on Saturday mornings. He still drives on Route 9. He returned to his office the week after the settlement and resumed oversight of his department's active misconduct investigations. There were 14 open cases on his desk. He got back to work. Kevin Bryant did not become the state attorney general to make history on a Tuesday afternoon on the side of a road, but history had other plans.